This is a 102.7 FM Toowoomba original podcast.
Welcome everybody to my podcast, Big Little Small Talk. I'm Megan O'Hara-Sullivan and I love to talk, but I also love to listen. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoy the episode. And today we're talking to Hugh Wilson, who is the president of Toowoomba, is that what we say?
Yeah, Toowoomba Region Bicycle Users Group, Inc.
Don't forget the...
We are a legitimate body.
Very good. And what does, I go to say T-Bug, but do you say Trub-Bug?
No, you just say Toowoomba.
Toowoomba. So what does Toowoomba do? What's their remit?
Well, we're a social riding group and we engage in modest advocacy with council and transport on main roads when we can. Main roads don't like to answer emails. So it's very difficult to actually engage with them.
Hugh, when you say modest advocacy, why do you have to say that? Why can't you say radical advocacy? Does that get people offside?
No, it's because it is modest. We're not calling for Amsterdam-style changes. There's a resistance to active transport in this, cycling in particular, but active transport is all non-motor movements. There's a resistance to it. It's not given priority by council. It's really not given any priority by main roads, although they do have a new policy called movement in place, which is pretty well what we have been talking about for the last 20 years, but without ever calling it that. And now they've latched onto it and good on them. Let's hope that it's a policy. It's not something that's mandated, but let's hope that the engineers and designers read it and understand it. That'll be a start. And then implement it.
So when you say it's a policy, it's not a strategy. And
No.
Are you talking council or are you talking...
No, this is a
state
transport and main roads. Now, in fairness to Queensland, they've got one. New South Wales has a very similar one. Other states don't. Austroads, which is the national body of all the transport departments, have undertaken a review of movement in place in its various names. And I think they've put out a sort of a synopsis of what's different and what needs to be put together as a unified movement in place for the country. About 30 years late.
Right. Give me a high-level summary of what needs to happen to get more active transport. And as you say, active transport is... Maybe explain to the listeners and to me what active transport is.
Well, walking and cycling, but it includes these days scooting and getting around in, I suppose, a wheelchair as well. I mean, people have to move them along. I know there's electric wheelchairs, but plenty of people are in other wheelchairs. So it's really about people being moved around or moving themselves around without being in a motor car.
Would you say that active transport includes public transport?
Yes, that's the general view that it does, because you have to walk to a bus and you have to walk from a bus or a train or a tram.
So the high level, it's not people in place, it's people in movement. Policy, what sort of things do we need to get more people in a big town like Toowoomba? What are the sort of encumbrances to active transport?
Well, I describe the city centre as a hostile environment for pedestrians. All priority is given to motor vehicles. Council has a strategy called the Sustainable Transport Strategy. And on page 8 or 9, there's a fantastic graphic, which is the approved sustainable transport hierarchy that all councillors at the time voted on. And it puts pedestrians at number 1 and cars with generally one person in the driver at number 6. And it's only a 6-level graphic. So that is what the council needs to enact. It needs to give priority pedestrians. Bicycles come number 2. People on scooters come number 3. Buses are about number 4. Trucks, delivery trucks, not semi-trailers, number 5. And the single occupant car is right at the bottom where it belongs.
So are you saying, Hugh, that the signs in the middle of Toowoomba that say pedestrians give way to cars are quite retrograde?
Well, they're misleading. They're the wrong colour for a start, because white is mandatory and yellow is advisory, so they should be pulled down and painted yellow for a start.
Don't you think they should be pulled down altogether?
Yes, they should be, and I haven't actually ever met a councillor over many years that actively supports them. Many have said, we don't understand why you don't cut them down, but that would be vandalism, and I wouldn't engage in that. Once a pedestrian has embarked on their journey across the road, they actually have priority. I mean, you don't leap out in front of a car, but if you are at the one near the art gallery garden, on the art gallery garden side, and there's a car at around about the town hall, and you've embarked on your journey, you have the right of way, not the car. So they're misleading, and they're poorly advised. And the bug did write and ask for councillors to table the legal advice that they'd received 101 years ago when they went in, and there was silence, and there remained silence.
It just seems at odds with the modern thinking about city centres are places for people to congregate and walk around and mill around. And I understand the concept that you don't want to have banning cars. It's a bit like in Noosa, you want to still have car movement through there because it's creating that flow and movement, isn't it? But yes, to have signs that say that people give priority to the cars, it does seem like something stepping back in time.
Yeah.
Hugh, why do we want active transport? Is it for the environment? Is it for people's health? Is it for amenity? Why are we pushing for it?
Well, all of those reasons, I would say. The clue in the movement and place naming is that the city centre is a place. It's where people want to come and where shopkeepers want you to walk along and buy stuff from them, and cafe owners want you to do that. It's not designed, it shouldn't be designed, to be a traffic drain. So, for instance, cars come from Hume Street straight through on their way to West Street. Now, that's not acceptable any more than it is crossing Herries Street and then crossing Chalk Drive just because they want to go north. That's a traffic drain, and the city centre is a place where people should be. And the unfortunate thing about Russell Street is that the literature that council put out a long time ago, but very early, was describing it as council wants Russell Street to be a place. So the rhetoric was correct, but the design was just another traffic drain. I don't know how many millions were spent on it, but it doesn't look to me as if it's any different. It doesn't look any more alluring, inviting. What shops have rushed in? A part-time cafe has filled the place of a part-time cafe. Rose looks better, but it looked better even before the Russell Street upgrade. So I would say that it was millions of dollars wasted compared to the dream that was put out in the first place.
So talk to me about shared zones. Why is it good to have shared zones with cars and bikes and people walking? What's the theory about that?
Well, a shared zone is quite a specific thing, which is 10 kilometres an hour. So there are places for those. But a zone that's shared between cars and bikes and people walking, it is good because it's a human framework. People can coexist without being threatened in it, and it works in many places. So there's no reason why it shouldn't work here. We're not a unique town.
What's the major resistance, do you think, from either council or from the community?
Well, you can see that from the parking strategy. As soon as 30 minutes free parking is threatened to be taken away, there's absolute uproar. And we need more free parking. Well, if all the parking was free, there'd be no room for anybody to park at all. So I was very pleased, and I've written some letters of support for that parking strategy, because clearly the author of it, I've got no idea who authored it, must have read The tome, you can't really describe it in any other way because it's quite large and it's quite difficult to read. The high cost of free parking, which I did try to get the library to buy some years ago. It was quite expensive, and I think they balked at the cost and the likelihood of it being read by anyone other than me. So I bought my own copy. If anyone's interested, they can Google the high cost of free parking, and up comes a 10-page PDF. If they read that, that'll be enough. No need to go out and read the book. You'll get the gist of it. But it's about a market-based parking strategy. So if you're parking at midnight, it might only cost you $1 an hour. If you're parking at 9 or 10 o'clock, it might cost you $10 an hour. I don't know.
So is this what they talk about when they talk about surge pricing?
Yes, it is.
And the more it's in demand, the more it costs. Yeah,
absolutely.
And what is a strategy like that trying to do? It's trying to dissuade people from parking in the city centre, isn't it?
It tries to keep a number of parks free at all times. So I forget what Donald is the author. Something like 20% of car parks should always be free when pricing is high. So cars don't have to circulate and do what they do, hunt around for a car park rather than walk 50 metres. They want a park as close as possible. So there's always parking, in theory. There's always parking available, and you pay your money. And you just stay there as long as you need to.
Well, my understanding of the call for a public car park in the city centre is that no private enterprise would ever do it because while council had such cheap parking, they couldn't make any money by building a multi-storey car park. So, on the one hand, people are crying out about not having free parking, and yet they want a multi-storey car parks that are, going against that strategy. Can we talk some more about your bicycle group as a sort of a community organisation? What do you love about cycling with these people, and what do you do when you cycle? Where do you go to?
We have regular Friday and Sunday rides. The Friday ride is a fixed route, just the way it worked out. Nobody said, let's have a fixed route. And we start at Cobb & Co, which now fortunately opens at 9 o'clock. You have coffee and then we leave at 10. And do a 25-kilometre route around the ridges, off the main busy roads, and end up out at the university on West Street. And then the ride breaks up and people go their own ways. And then on Sundays, the ride leader determines where they want to go and the pace of the ride and the cafe that we go to at the end. And sometimes what we try to do is one in town, one out of town. And it doesn't always work out that way. And they range from 25, 30 to 50. Sometimes we do more, 70 kilometres. Brisbane Valley Rail Trail, we'll go up and back, or sometimes we go up 2 legs, like 70 or 80 kilometres, and then catch the bus back. The bus has got it's a business, and it's got a big bike trailer, and you book it, pay your money, and he carts you to or back to where you want to go.
So I was going to ask you about the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail. Is it an off-road type of bike that you need for that? That's a different bike to your ride.
Right. Well, I no longer ride what people associate with Lycra. So I sold that a couple of years ago. So I've got an e-bike, which now happens to be a mountain bike, and I don't go mountain biking. I just bought it because it's comfortable. But front and rear suspension and a Bosch motor. Prior to that, I had what was essentially a city commuter e-bike, and you can use that. Gravel bikes are all the rage these days. All sorts of bikes can go on it.
I'll just remind the listeners that we're on Big Little Small Talk. I'm Megan O'Hara-Sullivan, and we're talking to Hugh Wilson, who is, among other things, the president of the TRBUG, the Toowoomba Region Bike Users Group. So what's your sort of, favourite thing about that club? What do you get out of it, and what do you give to it, do you think?
Well, there's 2 aspects for me, because I do the lobbying with our secretary, Jeff Nolan, who is also a rep on Rail Trails Australia. He's one of 2 Queensland reps. He's got other interests there. And so that's an interest. that comes about from the group, and then just riding. All sorts of people join. We get about one new member a month who just drifts in from somewhere. We don't advertise. Sometimes bike shops send people. We've got a perfunctory web page that just has a membership form on it that doesn't work very well. And our Facebook feed, which my son made the website for us, you put the website feed on there to make it look as if we had something on it. So we use the Facebook mainly. So if people, I think the @ symbol, @trbug, takes people to our Facebook page.
It's not hard to find. What's the makeup of men and women in Toowoomba?
Oh, right. Now, in our constitution or model rules, we have a rule that says we strive for 50-50 membership.
Action.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it oscillates. So sometimes it's approaching that, sometimes it's a little bit more. And the truth is that more men join. They're not, it's not that we invite men, that's more men join. But there's, what have we got? Just under 100 members. So I don't know, it could be 60-40 or 80. No, 60-40 or something like that.
You said before about you got rid of your lycra wearing gear. I was reading.
I never wore lycra.
I just heard okay, gotcha. I was reading today on a Reddit feed where it says, is Toowoomba a very friendly place to ride around? And one of the suggestions was, it is. You don't face much aggression as long as you're not looking like a cyclist wearing lycra. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's a theory that people apply across the board. No, some people just don't like bikes on the road.
What is it that they don't like, do you think?
I don't know. We don't pay rego.
That's what it is, isn't it? You're not contributing.
Yeah.
And you're riding two abreast.
You pay rates, which is where most of our roads, which are council roads, pays for. It doesn't do with rego at all. Anyway, when I'm riding my bike, my one car sits at home. So some plonker in a Ram will have more space on the road.
Do you think that it's getting more dangerous as the population's increasing, cars are getting bigger? What's your thoughts?
Yes, look, now we've got some evidence for that. It's about the dangers on the roads. There are roads that 10, 15 years ago we used to ride on, we no longer ride on because it's just too much trouble. There's too much traffic and the drivers are not very good. I mean, drivers are drivers. I'm a driver too. There is not the acceptance that you have to give space when you pass a bicycle. I don't mean the legal space. I mean just generally. If you're doing 100 let's just pretend everyone does 100 kilometres an hour on the open road. The wind that is produced is considerable if you're driving a car or a caravan or a truck. Trucks are generally not a problem at all.
Oh, right. Why is that? I would have thought.
Well, I think truck drivers are aware of the size of their vehicle and they generally, take more care. It's their job. It's what they do.
Yeah.
It's what they live with. And I think I'm talking about big trucks. Local trucks around town can be just as problematic as cars. But I don't want to over-egg it. If it was really dangerous, there'd be bicycle accidents. There would be crashes. There's no such thing as an accident every day involving bicycles, and there isn't. So you've got to put it in perspective. But when people go out of their way to be road ragey, then it's very unpleasant and can be very dangerous.
What are your thoughts on how EV, do you have an EV car?
No.
What are your thoughts on, I know with the productivity roundtable that's happening today and the next couple of days, that one of the things that's sort of controversial or what they're trying to nut out is how do people who drive EVs contribute? Should there be a road tax? What do you think about that?
Well, that's it. I'm not sure. I haven't got an EV and I don't intend to buy one until my car conks out, and then hopefully that'll be in a few years' time. They're contributing to the greater good by having an EV and not filling us with petrol and diesel fumes. Look, everything has to be paid for. There will be a tax that comes in. I think Victoria had a failed tax. You can guarantee it'll take them years to sort it out because states and territories won't agree to this, that or the other. Question is, do car drivers contribute enough to their public amenity that they use and abuse others for using. So I suspect that if EVs have to pay some form of road tax, then it should be one that encompasses all vehicles, or at least all private and business motor cars and vans, small vehicles, which means a different setup. So Rego and Rego may go and something else will come in, and maybe there'll be, you see, petrol should probably go up more. Probably too cheap.
That's going to set the cat on
if people want change, then, tax is a good blunt instrument to use, and petrol's probably too cheap.
Yes.
I buy petrol. So I would be paying more too.
Yes. Before I go off the subject of your bikes and go on to your other forms of activity, what is a recumbent tandem?
Ah, how odd that you should ask. Well, I just happen to have one for sale.
That's not a setup, listeners, I can guarantee.
Oh, how fortunate.
Well, Sprick,
and it's very well priced too, listeners.
What is it?
Well, a recumbent is where I'm sitting in an armchair, and an office chair, and if I angle it back a bit without falling off, stick my legs up in the air,
yes,
I would be recumbent.
Right.
So it's a tandem bicycle, same as any tandem, and I've got sort of armchair seats on it.
And why that sort of bicycle? What's the advantage of that rather than a tandem upright?
Well, there's probably no advantage, actually. Mine weighs a ton, and it's very slow up hills, but it goes like a rocket down. It's very comfortable.
When you're talking about it, automatically I see a flag on the back. Do all recumbent tandems have a flag on the back, or is it just something that people do?
Well, there's a few people on recumbent trikes around town, which I had once when I was at uni. I had a recumbent trike so I could commute. And I had a little flag on it, and a neighbour said, "I nearly ran you over with that stupid thing you ride. That silly flag, it's not big enough." So I went to Bunnings and I bought 6 metres of orange conduit, Sparty's conduit, and stuck it on the back. And my children shamed me into cutting it down.
It didn't get caught up.
I won't say what they said to me.
No, it was a bit.
But yes, it was such young children too. I was quite shocked.
Where did they learn that language?
I know. So I cut it down to about 3 metres, I think it was, about half, and stuck. One of my sons was a soccer referee. He was abused by fathers, take note, listeners, when he was refereeing 7-year-olds. And he had to red card a father off the pitch at Captain Cook. And that sort of behaviour made him give up refereeing. So I took his flags and stuck one on the top of my Sparky pole.
Right. So you never had an Australia flag or something like that?
I hate flags. But this was something to attract attention.
Very good. Now, I'll just remind listeners, you're on 102.7 FM. We're in Big Little Small Talk, and we're talking to Hugh Wilson, who is the president of TRBUG, the Bike Users Group. Now, a lot of listeners will know you, Hugh, from your letters to the editor.
Oh, yeah.
You're a frequent writer to the letters to the editor, aren't you?
Sometimes, yeah. I had a bit of a hiatus.
Right.
Many years ago, I used to write all the time.
Right. And a part of your sort of the things that take your fancy are the Justice for Palestine, the Tandem Club, My Efficient Electric Home, Bicycle Travellers. What sort of things really peeve you enough that you're going to write a letter to the editor?
Oh, well, sometimes in Toowoomba, it would be things like the parking strategy, which I support. And I knew, when I read it, I knew immediately the Chronicle would fill with whinging about free parking. So I thought, this deserves a letter or two. Yeah, I don't think I've written about Palestine. I think that's a non-starter here. It's just a waste of time because there's so much, people aren't interested in reading about it. And strangely enough, having said that, I thought, I better read more about Palestine. The library is quite a good collection of books. But if anybody took the trouble, and people do take the trouble to read because you have to put your name down and wait for them. So a lot of people are reading them, and I can't think of any titles now. But they're there. So I do recommend people use the local library. It's rather good.
Well done. So that body of work there, say in those books about Palestine, how sort of modern are they though, given what's been happening in the
Oh,
Middle East at the moment?
no, they're fairly contemporary. And if they're not contemporary, then they provide the history, which is very important,
Mm.
And they also provide you with access to YouTube interviews with serious historians, Israeli historians, who have taken a different slant to the standard ones.
Mm.
Standard ones, to the status quo people.
Given your, can I call it advocacy, activism, have you ever thought about running for some political office?
Ah, well, there you go. There was the infamous 1997 Send Them Down Huey campaign. I didn't lose my deposit. That was for council. That was inspired by my work as a union organiser when I was organising had a contract with the federal government to organise enterprise bargaining for federal awards. And lo and behold, the council comes under a federal award. So that was the first cab off the rank. So my task was to organise all the unions that had members at the Toowoomba City Council, the old council. And that was a pretty horrible experience, I have to say. The council at the time, which is nobody that's there now, were quite mean-spirited, I think. Their response was just no to everything. We took them, we had a dispute, took them to the commission. Commissioner Swan came up here, and the council, I can't remember what the outcome was. But
So was it about pay and condition?
it was pay and conditions, yes. It was the first ever enterprise bargaining agreement. So nobody had ever done it. Union officials here had ever done an enterprise bargaining agreement. But employers had done one. So, there was some excuse for trepidation on both sides, but there's no excuse for bloody mine, I don't think. Now, it was quite good, actually, because we managed to organise, we letterboxed every house in Toowoomba City. Like, it's not the region, just the city. I don't remember how many houses. It was about 30,000 houses or something. That was quite an event. As a result of that, I left my job shortly after that. But I said, foolishly, I said to some of the delegates that, when the council election comes up, I'll run. And so when it did come up, they said, oh, well, you said you'd run. Anyway, so I got my committee together and got signs made.
How did you find that process?
I found it quite entertaining, actually.
Yeah.
I was a house husband at the time, and my youngest son, who was about 3, had to come with me everywhere.
That's a vote winner.
Yeah,
Dogs and kids.
Yeah. And I made some mugs, Send Them Down Huey mugs, and I hawked them around, sold them to, remember Steve Keating, the editor of the Chronicle? Sold one to him. I sold one to, what's his name, Bill Taylor, various other people. I mean, that was $10. But I sold a lot, and people bought in good faith. It was a fundraiser. And I set up outside town hall, not the town hall, the Harry Street place. That was the early poll. And we all had our signs out the front. And I went there one morning. So I went there early with my youngest son in the car, set up the table, Huston's board, and went off and took the other kids to school, came back, and had been impounded by Mr. Farr, the CEO. And I remonstrated. Anyway, he gave it back to me. He said, you mustn't do that again. You candidates, you can't leave your signs unattended. So the next day I came down with my son's little picnic table and little tiny chairs and my sign, and I roped on Rupert Bear and various other teddies and things like that to the seats, so it wasn't unaccompanied, and took off kids to school. And I managed to alert the local TV news people, and they came down and did an interview too.
You didn't mind a stunt either.
No, it was a stunt.
Well, that's what they call a stunt, I say. Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be done these days. You'd have to be there at 5 o'clock in the morning, standing right next to the door to go in, so that you mark your spot and the doggy go up as well. Can we talk about another passion of yours, and that is the new building design guidelines that I think you had something to do with? The Toowoomba Regional Council may have used your
Oh, the
home?
book, the
Yeah,
pamphlet, yes.
yeah. The guidelines, best practice for design for our built environment, the warm temperate climate building design guidelines.
Yes, and I have to give a shout out to Jade, I think it was, on that one. I don't know who else was involved. Well, that was all underway. We had nothing to do with that, but Jade must have seen our application for the house, and I had to employ a planner to get it through, because somebody in council, doesn't matter who it was, somebody in council didn't like the design. And so the planner and I met this person and she relented. But I understand that the people in the planning department actually liked the design and thought it should go ahead because it fulfilled infill requirements that the council was trying to, and as far as I know, still is trying to encourage. And it was fairly, it's not really sustainable. It's full of concrete and steel, but in terms of the terminology, it's a sustainable house.
So it's passive and heating, passive cooling and heating, yeah.
Well, we do have aircon, which was on last night on hot, but we've got solar panels like many people here, and we've now got 2 batteries. 2 sounds a lot, but they're quite small. 5 kilowatts. I think that's the measurement each.
So Hugh, you've obviously got an English accent. Tell me about your background. Where were you?
Sounded
Oh,
Australian.
yeah, Australian. Yeah. Where did you come from, and what was your history? Where were your parents doing? And
Oh, right.
oh, right, okay.
Well, I come from what's known as occupied Berkshire. So I'm part of a terrorist group that's trying to regain our freedom again from Oxfordshire. Thank you.
Long line of activism.
Yeah, no. I left in 73. I think it was in 73 or 74. The boundaries changed. So my hometown, which was in Berkshire, was disgracefully shunted into Oxfordshire. And so my aunt lived in Devonshire. She wrote to my mother, and on the envelope, back when people hand wrote and there were envelopes, said Flora Wilson, Oxford Road, Abingdon, occupied Berkshire. And she put that in bold letters. So that was the beginning of our resistance movement. So we refer to it as occupied Berkshire ever since. It was a long time ago.
And did you come out to Australia as an adult?
Adult, yes, I suppose so.
On your own, without your parents?
Oh yeah, with 2 other blokes.
Right.
Pete was 21, but Mike was 23. We thought he was so old.
What were you coming to do? Have a holiday?
Well, a bit of a story. Pete was one of those to and froms, the origin of the phrase poms that go to and from. So his father was a contract engineer, and he'd go to New Zealand, in fact, not to Australia, do a contract 3 or 4 years or something, build whatever it was he was building, back to England, do the same, and then they go backwards and forwards. So Pete had spent his childhood going backwards and forwards. And I had wanted to come to Australia because a friend of my parents was an opal miner, continued to be an opal miner. And he came back one Christmas with this big bag of opals from Lightning Ridge and threw them out on the table. Some were cut, some were uncut. And he had this giant one that he was off to New York to sell. And I was just really intrigued by opal mining. And then seeing the polished ones really impressed me. And he was a bit of a knockabout chap.
I think it's the Wild West down there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yes, I took my family to see him and we caught up. He didn't know we were coming. And we went into this big, an underground mine, a great big cavern that was showing underground mining in Lightning Ridge. And the voiceover was this bloke, Terry. I couldn't believe it. Oxford Terry was known as around Lightning, around the ridge. And I left the wife and the kids there, went up to the woman at the counter. I said, that's Terry Baseford. Is that Terry? Oh, I couldn't say. Who did you say? And I said, Terry Baseford from Abingdon. Oh, I used to wash his car, did Bob a job, had a Sunbeam Talbot. And she said, "Oh, come back at 1:00." And she disappeared, and she'd obviously gone off to see Terry. We came back. So it was Terry. We came back, and she said, "He'll meet you at the pool." It was this sort of heated, it was like red hot water, It was September, it was freezing cold, and there was this water that was boiling hot. And we went out there, and the kids were bathing in it, paddling in it. And he was waiting. And then suddenly she appeared and said, "Terry will see you." We followed her, and he had this Toyota camper van, like a bus.
You got rid
He
of
lived
the
Sunbeam Torbeth, yes, that was in England. He lived in this thing, and it was full of pipes, he was a pipe smoker, pipes and opals everywhere. And we had a chat, and it was completely as I remembered him when I was a child. And he'd been in Lightning Ridge for years.
I thought you were going to tell me he was some sort of criminal or had some sort of alias, as I would imagine that a few of them do down there.
I'm sure Oxford Terry was his alias.
That's right.
I think he'd owned a newspaper there on the way through. I can't remember. No, he teamed up with this forensic psychologist.
Oh, who knew?
And went to live when they did retire, I think, went to live in Perth.
Now tell me, Hugh, did you get the PhD done in the end? The
The background
of religion and faith in Australia's foreign policy during the Howard era.
No,
I'm gathering you're not a fan of the chaplaincy in school program.
No, and that was probably what ended my ambition for the PhD, because I teamed up with Ron, whose name is on the case, Williams v's Commonwealth, and I spent far too much time getting all that stuff together for the solicitor who engaged the barrister.
What were you doing? I don't know
Well-
too much about that. Tell me about that.
Well, Howard created this school chaplaincy scheme, National School Chaplaincy Program, NSCP, that Beasley, leader of the ALP, of course, agreed to. And so it's a fait accompli, and it's still there in some bastardized form, to get all these non-trained, non-professionals into schools as some sort of two-bob cure for whatever problems schools had. Only state schools, private schools, of course, had no problems. Now, initially, the Catholic Church opposed it, but when they realised they were missing out on money, they changed their tune and thought, we'll have a bit of that too, thanks. So we won the first High Court case. How many judges are there? 7, I think. Won at 6-1. And the bloke that voted against it was the bloke that was disgraced. Remember him? The sexual assaulter. You remember the High Court?
Hollingsworth?
No, not Hollingworth. No. It was the Archbishop. That's another story. No, I can't remember his name. Anyway, best forgotten. And the government changed the rules, so they didn't have to stop funding it, because by then it was a political hot potato, which is what Howard intended in the first place. Rudd, of course, continued it, going off to meet the Australian Christian lobby, grovelling to them. And then we took the second case, which was also won. By then, there was a new High Court judge, who had been the Solicitor General during the first case. So he prosecuted the case against Ron. So he had to stand down. He couldn't be in it. So that case was won 6-0.
And what happened from there?
Well, the government changed the rules.
Right. Right.
So not many people win High Court cases, but not many people win too.
Right. But do you feel that that was all in vain, that all that hard work? I can imagine. Like, where did you get the money from to fund the case?
Oh, crowdfunding. Hundreds of thousands. People paid small amounts, big amounts. Ron and I met one bloke in Sydney. He and his wife came to meet us. And we didn't know people. He brought a cheque along for $10,000. And we said, well, why? Thanks very much, but why are you doing this? And he said, because I just think it's terrible. And we don't know anything about him. We don't know. We just know he was a builder. And that money, in case anyone wonders, went to the Solicitor's Trust Fund. So it was not touched. And that went to pay the barristers and the solicitors' legal bills.
Mm. Hugh, you have a lot of passion and a lot of energy for a lot of projects. Do you get disheartened that things don't change or not?
No, I just think that we're humans and people generally are fairly conservative.
Do you live in Toowoomba, one of the most conservative electorates in the country? Actually, it's the second most conservative after Maranoa,
Yes, the mayor of Maranoa, because I got a job here,
which was
But-
doing what?
union organising. And
What sort of field had you been in?
I've been at trucking. Rough. That's why I sound so Aussie, because I've been a rough tuck.
Well, I was going to ask you whether you'd gone to...
A blue singlet,
Oh, the what?
2 short stubbies. Oh, you're not allowed to say that.
I thought that you've gone to posh schools in London, in England.
Only one. Yeah, wasn't that posh. It is now. Wasn't then.
Yeah. And what about the activism? Was that from your family?
Oh, I don't think so.
Was either your mother or your father filled with a certain amount of rage?
No, my mother was, yeah. Used to cop it all the time. A different sort of rage. She became a teacher. Dissipated her rage a bit. And I think that rage of hers came from, hard to know really. I think she read The Female Eunuch, and that awoke her to how hard done she was
Good.
by society, Yeah, and
Like a
so
lot
she
of
went,
women of that era.
yeah, yes. And she went off to teachers' college, and I think it was a 1-year or 2-year course. I can't remember back then. And to get there, she had to learn to drive, which meant she had to have a car. So because it was 8 miles away, it's long, and you can't. There were no buses there, I don't think. So she did lots of things to change her life.
Mm-hmm.
And then she started teaching in a town called Drayton. Would you believe? Yeah.
So you could see a difference in her once she started teaching, that she would have found her own identity, do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Can you tell me briefly about being a stay-at-home dad? I don't imagine there would have been too many other stay-at-home dads.
And I used to listen to Geraldine Doog when she did Life Matters, or whatever it was called back then.
Yes, it was, yeah.
And I had to retrain the children. Because the first day, so what happened was I got fed up with my job, quite literally fed up with it. So I came home one day and told Jude that I was going to have to resign. And she was working casual, I think, the Commonwealth Rehab and a bit at the hospital, physio. And she said, I'm going to apply for a full-time job. So just wait to see if I get it. I should get it. And, you never know. Interview process. And anyway, I got really fed up with it. I came home one day and said, I've chucked it in. And she hadn't got the job at the time, but she did get it. So that was fortunate. Just as I finished, she started. And then the first day off, Jude went to work, and the kids they were at year 1, year 2 in a multi-age class at Rangeville. And the older one said, "Oh, you haven't made our lunch for us here." I said, "What do you mean?" "Why, what do you do?" "Oh, Mum always makes it for us." "Oh, I'll do it today. What do you want?" Then I said, "Look, that's it. From now on, this will have to stop. You're going to have to make your own. You tell me what you want, I'll buy it. You make your own." So year 1, year 2, they were doing that. And then when Henry, who was 3, when Henry went to preschool, he was making his own because he'd seen the others doing it too. So it wasn't hard.
Yeah. How did you spend your days, like apart from listening to Life Matters? The reason I ask is my husband and I job shared, and if he was out with the children, people would say to him, "Oh, you're babysitting, aren't you?" No,
Yes.
actually being a father.
Well, yeah, so I took up my public duty as a P&C person. But Jude didn't want to go because she'd been working all day. And then she started doing a master's as well. So she'd study at night, work during the day, study at night. So I did P&C stuff and took the kids to sport during the week, all that sort of stuff. But at the school, there were people who thought I was unemployed. And I should be at work.
That's right.
Should be at work. I don't know what's wrong with that bloke. Never seems to work.
Yeah, it's a real double standard, isn't it?
Yeah.
My husband said he had to give up going to the TAB when he had 3 children. It wasn't a very good look. Now, as an Englishman, do you
Yes.
have a favourite royal?
No, I think royal families are despicable, and I think that they should be. If I say done away with, I don't mean they should be done away with in the manner of the Russian royal family, but they should just be disappeared. And because I have so little regard for the institution of royal families, I'd say Prince Andrew would be my favourite,
Oh,
because
God.
he represents all that is revolting and disgusting about the British royal family. But take that for all of them.
I love that. I love that answer. I have never had a Prince Andrew before for obvious reasons. And yours is a very legitimate one too. What about a song that can't keep you off the dance floor? Yeah.
Well, I'm better off not on the dance floor, but and this is digging into the past. I think Thunderclap Newman, Something in the Air, would have to be a song that could make me dance again if I were allowed to.
Can't you turn the lights off and dance like there's nobody watching?
Oh, it's, I could do, I suppose, but there's no fun then, is there? You have to flail into people and...
Is that what you do?
upset them. Yeah, I
You
think
could
so.
be a punk in another era, do you think?
No, definitely not. I lived through the era of skinheads in Birmingham, and punk started off too much like that. I did do dance lessons here with Ron. I can't remember his name. He used to be in Trades Hall, and
Someone will remind us. Who
Yes,
Ron
yes,
was. Yes.
he's famous. Anyway, no, I did that for about 3 years with my wife, but if he didn't call the dances, I couldn't remember them. So there's no point going anywhere else, because I couldn't remember what to do next.
Well, that's a bit like aerobics of the 80s, but I'm sure we'll be able to find your song anyway. Hugh, thank you for sharing some of the things that have interested you throughout your long active life. And I'd say keep the fire burning,
All right.
keep the rage.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah, thank you very much for being my guest on Big Little Small
Thanks for
Talk.
inviting me.
That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me on Big Little Small Talk. I hope you can make the time to join me next week. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favourite podcast app.
You've been listening to a 102.7 FM Toowoomba original podcast. For more podcasts or to listen to live and local Toowoomba radio, please visit 1027.com.au or download the Community Radio Plus app.